Hello and welcome to the in-news series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Divedi and today we are going to talk about the agreement to end the dispute of Nagorno-Karabakh region. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims as well as GS Mains Paper 1 and 2. So let's have a look on the topics that we are going to touch step by step. The first and foremost, why in news? We will talk about the recently brokered peace deal by Russia, the agreement, the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict as well as its background. We will talk about the historical as well as the geographical aspects of the stakeholder nations, implications of the agreement on the contemporary geopolitical scenario, and in the midst of the entire segment, I am going to ask you a prelim-based question for which if you know the answer, you can comment in the comment section. So, why in news? Because Azerbaijan, Armenia and Russia have signed an agreement to end the conflict in the disputed territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. Under this agreement, Armenia will withdraw its armies from the region and it will be replaced by Russian peacekeepers. This entire agreement has come after 6 weeks of constant fighting between Azerbaijan and ethnic Armenians. So now let's talk about the features of this agreement. Under the new agreement, Azerbaijan will hold the captured territories which it captured in the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and Armenia will withdraw its armies from the adjacent areas. Armenia will also have to lose the road access over the mountainous conclave through which it used to supply military equipments to Armenian defenders, and then now the Armenian defenders will be bereft of any hopes to continue the resistance against Azerbaijan. President Putin has said that Russian peacekeepers will patrol the borders and they will be doing so for 5 years. They will also guard the mountainous corridor, the Lashin region. Alright. And the Defense Ministry of Russia has said that 1960 personnel will be involved. Not only Russian peacekeepers but also Turkish peacekeepers also take part according to Azerbaijan. Turkey extended its supports to Azerbaijan during the entire conflict. President Putin said that the agreement would also involve exchange of prisoners of wars as well as bodies of the fallen, and also economic and transport contracts will be unblocked. But the agreement did suggest a more permanent solution and redrawing of the map of the volatile southern Caucasus region, which is a volatile region between Turkey, Russia and Iran for a more permanent solution. The agreement says that the settlement has sealed a more significant and important role for Turkey in this entire region. And the agreement ends a quarter century of the Armenian military control over remote mountainous area, which was a touchstone of the Armenian identity. As soon as the announcement was made, violent protests erupted at Yerevan. Yerevan is the capital of Armenia. President Putin said that this agreement is in the interest of both the people of Armenia and Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan called it historic, but Armenia said it is painful for them to sign this agreement. This is not a victory, but it is also not a defeat. Now moving towards the conflict. Now this 2020 conflict was an armed conflict between Azerbaijan, which was supported by Turkey, and the self-proclaimed Republic of Artsakh. Artsakh is a breakaway state and it was being supported by Armenia. Now, it was the latest escalation of the unresolved conflict of the disputed territory, and which is internationally recognized to be a part of Azerbaijan, but it is a breakaway state and it has Armenian ethnic majority of 99.7%. Clashes began on the morning of 27 September on the line of contact, which was established after the aftermath of Nagorno-Karabakh war. In response to the clashes, Armenia and Artsakh introduced martial law and they also introduced complete mobilization. But Azerbaijan introduced curfew and mobilization was introduced at a later stage, partial mobilization. So the international analysts say that the entire clash occurred because of Azerbaijan offensive, whose motive was to take the easier to take less mountainous southern region of Nagorno-Karabakh area. And because of that only, the war happened. The war was marked by the deployment of sensors, drones, heavy artillery, as well as information warfare over social media, and also propagandization by Turkey and extension of support to Azerbaijan. Turkey's involvement is being seen as a case to marginalize the influence of Russia, as well as enhancing the standing of Azerbaijan, and also to escalate its own role in the area. Now let's look from another perspective. A humanitarian ceasefire was brokered because this entire conflict was being condemned by international community as well as UN. So Russia did not kind of extend support, but it said that they would facilitate a peace deal. So Russia, with the help of International Committee of Red Cross, they signed a deal and it was agreed to by both the parties, Armenia and Azerbaijan, but at a later stage it was disregarded by both. It was completely disregarded, and following the capture of Shusha, which is the second largest settlement in the Nagorno-Karabakh region, the peace deal, the recent peace deal which was brokered by Russia, was signed to end the entire dispute. Now, seeing from the perspective of map, let's have a look. The Lashin, which will have heavy deployment of Russians. This was a very active region, this area in Nagorno-Karabakh. These two territories are being controlled by Azerbaijan, and this was being controlled by Armenia. Now this area, Nakhchivan, it is being controlled by Azerbaijan, and a transport corridor under the agreement signed will be built through Armenia, and it will be accessible to Azerbaijan under the recent deal. So now let's have a look on the background why this happened. So the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh has an ethnic Armenian majority, and it is a de jure part of Azerbaijan. De jure means by right, but it is de facto held by self-proclaimed Republic of Artsakh. De facto means in reality, whether by right or not. So on 20th February 1988, the Soviet of the Nagorno-Karabakh have requested the transfer of the autonomous oblast from Azerbaijan to Armenia. But Azerbaijan turned down this request time and again. Oblast is basically an administrative region. So after the turning down of the request time and again, ethnic conflicts and violence began shortly. And it was against Armenia and Azerbaijan, and against Azerbaijan in Armenia. Following the revocation of the Nagorno-Karabakh's autonomous status, a referendum was taking place in 1991 on 10 December. And this referendum was boycotted by Azerbaijan population, which was 22.8% of the total region's population back then. Now it is pretty interesting because 99.8% of the participants voted in favor of the referendum. Now it is not very clear that what the Azerbaijani population or what the population that is residing in the disputed territory wants now. But it is for sure that they do not want to be considered a part of Azerbaijan. After the fall of Soviet Union in 1991, the area descended into outright war. And for 3 decades, multiple violations of treaties and ceasefires happened. But the most dangerous of them was the 2016 Nagorno-Karabakh clash. Long-standing international mediation attempts were also taking place. The most important was by the group OSCE Minsk Group in the year 1994, which employed the Madrid Principle, which is basically a peacekeeping solution to this entire conflict. This group was established in the year 1992, and it is co-chaired by France, Russian Federation as well as the US. It spearheads the entire peace process in the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. So, in August 2019, in an unprecedented declaration for unification, the Armenian Prime Minister said that Artsakh is Armenia, full stop. And skirmishes started to happen in 2020. After that, we discussed the entire conflict and the agreement. Now, let's see the historical aspects of the key nations. There are three key nations here: Russia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. Russia has a military base in Armenia, and these two countries are part of the Moscow-led Collective Security Treaty Organization. What does this treaty say? This treaty envisages support of Russia to Armenia in case Armenia gets attacked, but it does not envisage the Nagorno-Karabakh disputed region. Alright. At the same time, Moscow has very strong ties with Azerbaijan, which is supported by Turkey, and Azerbaijan and Armenia gets their arms and ammunition by Russia, both of these countries. Turkey, as we all know it, is a NATO ally. Turkey is the fourth key player here, brought into by Azerbaijan. Now let's talk about the geographical aspects. Two countries, Armenia with its capital at Yerevan and Azerbaijan with Baku. Azerbaijan shares its borders with Georgia, Russia, its coast with Caspian Sea, Iran, and Armenia, of course. And this is a strip which is being made accessible to Azerbaijan as a transport route through Armenia, as we discussed above. It is a strip which lies between Iran and Armenia. You have to keep this in mind. Alright, Armenia shares its borders with Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Iran. Please keep all these points in mind. Now let's talk about the implications of the agreement. This agreement does promise at least some light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to maintaining stability in the region, and it paves the way for more tactful, peaceful diplomacy in the region, different regions which have witnessed similar conflicts. The balancing of the multipolarity, because Russia has risen up to the occasion and said that it would broker a peace deal between them. It also challenges a hegemonic mindset by several nations which we can see are rising to the fore now. The precedent which has been set by this agreement, because this agreement, if it succeeds until a more permanent solution is found, can be a big light to the same other kind of places which are seeing ethno-territorial conflicts. From the prism of India, India has maintained a very neutral stance. It has not come with a very well articulated policy like Neighborhood First, Act East, or Central Asia Connect, so that it can show that yes, it's a core area for which India is very concerned. It shows that because it doesn't have a very well articulated policy, it shows that it considers it a very peripheral problem. And Armenia has sent 3 heads of state to India, but Azerbaijan has sent none. Armenia extends its unequivocal support to India on the Kashmir issue, while Azerbaijan as well as Turkey have supported Pakistan's narrative on the issue. The levels of India's trade or investment in Armenia has regardless remained low, while ONGC has very small investments in Azerbaijan, and GAIL is also exploring some opportunities. Azerbaijan falls on the international north-south transport corridor, which is set to establish a link between Russia and India through Central Asia. Now it can also connect India with Turkey beyond Baku, Tbilisi and Kars passenger and freight rail ring. Now Baku is the capital of Azerbaijan, Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia, while Kars is a city which is in the northeastern province of Turkey. In the comment section, please tell me what is the capital of Nagorno-Karabakh. So, as we all have seen through these points that India has very little interest, very little stake in this entire region. So, as we know that peace deals throughout the volatile times need to be nurtured by various stakeholders. What future holds for Nagorno-Karabakh is yet to be seen. As for now, I am concluding the news piece. Thank you so much for watching and stay updated.